Hello there. Thank you for joining us on the midweek edition of Journalist Hangout. I am Bukola Samuel Wemimo. Today on the program, President Buhari tasks service chiefs to be more proactive as gunmen kill, kidnap more Nigerians. And later on the show, court directs federal government to extend deadline for linking SIM cards. I will be hanging out with Oba Adeoye and Paul Dada. Journalist Hangout starts now. It's good to have you join us. Talking tough and walking the talk are not too familiar in our environment. Just about 24 hours after President Buhari gave a marching order to the service chiefs to take out bandits and kidnappers, these criminals have refused to give room for respite. More killings and kidnapping are rampant nationwide. The president wants the service chiefs to be more proactive and arrest the situation. He says government abhors criminals dictating the pace in the fight against insecurity and vowed to provide resources needed to put down the criminals. First of all, I'd like to welcome my guests to the program, Oba Adeoye. Welcome to the show.
It's nice to be here.
It's good to have you. And suffice it to say that Oba, our guest today, is one of the brains behind Journalist Hangout from way back. So
okay.
Welcome home.
All right.
All right. We also have Paul Dada. Paul Dada, welcome to the show.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here again.
Yes, Paul Dada is a friend of the family. So as we start off, Oba, I'm going to come to you first. Not too long ago, the president gave the new service chiefs an unspecified ultimatum to make things right. So weeks down the line, have we moved from that point?
You know, in your intro to today's edition of the program, you said talking tough and walking the talk are not too familiar in our environment. Of course, I want to disagree with that statement. Talking tough is, we are used to talking tough, but walking the talk is what we are not used to in this part of the world. This is not the first time that Mr. President or whoever in the position of authority will be talking tough as regards security situation in the country. But if we check the trajectory, if you check the result on the table, you see that we've not been able to achieve any significant result as regards that. For those of us who live in places like Lagos and maybe Abuja to an extent, we may not be able to tell for sure the kind of insecurity challenge that we are facing in this country as a nation. But people who live in other parts, especially up north there and in some part of the south, they have bitter tales to tell you. Between Monday and today, between Monday and yesterday, a total of 31 persons were killed across Nigeria. We were talking about the killings in Ebonyi State. You know, there's a controversy there. Some people were killed there. I think 27 people killed in Ebonyi State, and the governor came out to say he was so sure that the killing is reprisal killing by suspected herdsmen. But leaders of the Fulani group in that part of the nation have come out to say no, they are not aware of that. So it's like the leader is just trying to create an alibi to hide under it. It's a failure of leadership if we continue to contend with this. If a nation could lose a total of 31 persons within just 72 hours, it's a very, very huge indictment on the leadership. Because if you check the whole essence of government, the primary responsibility of government is to provide security for life and property. And when you fail to do that, even if you are succeeding in other areas, you are also regarded to have failed. So, Mr. President giving the directive to the service chief is not a new thing. But how much of result are we going to get from that directive is a big thing. And that's what we will keep our fingers crossed and we keep a tab on.
Let's take the specifics now. Mr. President told the service chief, and that was relayed through the NSA, the National Security Advisor, that the service chiefs should identify the leaders of the bandits, that a situation where the bandits are dictating the pace of the country is unsatisfactory. Now, how cheap is that? Is the implementation of that directive? I ask because in the last 1 month or so in the country, we have had certain persons say that we visited the bush to listen to the bandits. So how cheap is that directive, the implementation of the directive?
Honestly, the leaders of the bandits are not unknown. They are not unknown. Zamfara state governments, certain state governments in the north have been negotiating with them. So they note them. It's not the issue of identifying them, identifying the sponsors, the leaders of the bandits or their sponsors. I believe they have that information more than you, more than you.
You and I.
Exactly, exactly. The truth of the matter is we are not just serious. Now, like Obadeoye said, he said, we've heard it before, okay? We have yet to see the blueprint, the strategy, that we have to tackle this issue. There was a time I was on this show, I said that change of service chiefs does not automatically translate into victory over banditry or terrorism. There must be, we must come up, we don't even know what we are doing, actually. We don't know what we are doing. All we hear is President reading the Riot Act, But it seems to me that we are not ready. Look, kidnapping.
What would you rather see in terms of strategy?
Okay, I'll come to that. I'm trying to paint the seriousness of the situation.
Okay.
Kidnapping is a thriving industry in this country. There is a report that says that between 2021 and 2020, people paid $80 million in ransom to kidnappers. That's about 6.8 billion naira. So, and according to that report, Borno leads the pack in the number of fatalities. I think that's about 471 fatalities between that period. Kaduna next, Katsina next. Now, I remember that the last time I came on this show, Oba was, Oyo was hosting then, and I said that, okay, beyond the show of arms, a show of force, beyond the show of force, there are other ways of actually, fighting terrorism or banditry. Now, it's a fact that bandits or even terrorists recruit people. They have informants. Now, how did these people mix up with the population?
Absolutely.
They mix up and they give information. Now, are the forces, the security forces, also wooing the population? Are they wooing the population? Does the population actually trust the security forces? Another thing I want to say is this: I don't know why for fighting for the conflict or for the fight against banditry, I don't know why we are putting much attention only on the armed forces. Actually, when it comes to banditry, it's the work of the police. It's the work of the police. It's not the work of the armed forces. Armed forces will fight. Of course, they can support, but
we have a peculiar situation.
I know. It's
police is
so what are we doing about our police? How are we equipping them to fight banditry? What is the level of our intelligence gathering? If we cut the people, they will give information. So, because we're talking about proactiveness, what we have always had is reactiveness. Yes, people will react, and these things keep happening everywhere, not only in the north. You talked about Ebonyi. You talk about Ebonyi. In Osun State, I think a brother of an Hausa leader was kidnapped along with 2 other people recently. Everywhere in Akwa Ibom, a police inspector was killed. And bandits had been.
It's like a vicious cycle.
Yes. Everywhere we keep repeating the same thing. So we need to have a strategy. We need to have a strategy to deal with this, and we have yet to see that.
I'll come to the amount having exchanged hands in terms of ransom over the last year that you quoted. But let's stay with the specifics now, and I'll come to you, Oba, for the second part of it, which is the NSA also saying that the president is also dissatisfied with a situation where the efforts of the federal government in Zamfara State are being undermined by certain persons who are in cahoots with the bandits. So is the presidency speaking in parables in this particular situation? And who are those in cahoots? In respect to that, I'd like to ask, let's talk about how the mining in that state is also fueling banditry.
Okay, if the NSA could come out to make such a pronouncement, it's like you coming out to paint how helpless you are, with the situation that you are expected to act on. The Yoruba, that's my people, they will tell you that if you have a Yoruba friend, he will translate to it there.
Help yourself. Help yourself here, Oba.
That if you have been given a title, if you have been given a responsibility, it is expected of you that you must deliver that responsibility.
Thank you.
Is the National Security Advisor. And you are telling us that you know of people who are working hand in hand with these bandits and with the rest of them. What are you doing about them? It is not a press statement. It is not something you need to come to the pages of paper to discuss. It's something that we expect you to act, to do something about. We have been hearing for as far as since the days of Goodluck Jonathan, we've been hearing about, we know the people behind this, we know the people behind this. How many people behind this have you convicted? How many of them have you taken to the court? How many of them have you dealt with? We keep on saying that we know that some people are supporting them, some people are failing them, some people are doing this, are doing that. Like Sheikh Gumi said that these people are known to the government.
Exactly.
Sheikh Gumi knows them. They know Sheikh Gumi. Exactly. So what's the big deal? We've seen pictures on the pages of papers. You know, if the government is really serious about this thing, it's not about just making, window dressing statement, trying to, paint a picture that is beyond your power. It is about you acting,
Is there an attempt to deflect here? Because, quote unquote, a neutral party, not necessarily neutral in terms of party affiliation, and APGA chieftain had said that the APC also in Zamfara state should be investigated, that the APC in that state is also undermining efforts of the state government.
Exactly. I was coming to that. When you mentioned the mining activities in Zamfara state, I was coming to that look, the people in government, the people who are supposed to be responsible, people who are responsible for all of this, like the NSA said, for him to have come out to say that some people are failing this crisis, it means that they have some information, like he said, that some of us may not have. So if you have that information, what are you doing with that information? Are you just caressing the information? Are you just glossing over the information? Are you just trying to be careful so that you don't get to step on toes that you shouldn't step on? By now, we should be hearing stories of this particular person is the sponsor of this particular person is behind this particular person is this. For the APGA chieftain to come out to indict the APC, he's also a politician. He has information that the rest of us may not have. Don't forget what happened in Zamfara state during the last election between the APC and the PDP. It's history right now. So it's very possible. So the statement should not be just be taken, with the face value. We should investigate into that statement. The APC is the governing party at the federal level, and the APC has been indicted now in Zamfara state. Will the APC at the federal level do something about their party members in Zamfara state fueling all of these things? Look, Bukola, we are just going in circles. We are just going in circles. Like we say in street parlance, we are just merry-go-rounding. We are not ready yet. We are not ready yet. When we are ready, we will not be talking about, we will not be having this discussion.
Paul, you want to comment on the Zamfara situation before we make progress?
Honestly, I feel very sad that we are politicizing the issue of security. What's my business with whether it's APC or PDP or APGA? We should be okay. When bandits go to do their thing, do they ask you which party you belong to? Do they care about what party you are loyal to? Let's get these things exactly. Let's get these things resolved. It's the same attitude people have. Sometimes we say, okay, so and so from this ethnic group, so and so from this ethnic group. Some people will say, look, you are doing ethnic profiling. Let's deal with criminals. They are criminals. It does not matter whether they are Yoruba or they are Fulani or Igbo. But I see people online, when they say, okay, so and so from a particular ethnic group makes a confession or is arrested, you will see people from that same ethnic group saying that, look, why are you... Sometimes it's even a news report. It might be a news report that somebody shares, or a video, or a confessional video that somebody shares. And then you see people start attacking the person. Why are you... it seems to me that we are not ready to actually deal with this situation. Do we realize how many lives are being lost almost on a daily basis? Do we realize how many people are being turned into widows, widowers? How many people are becoming fatherless or childless because of the activities of these criminals? Does the government understand that its first responsibility is the security of the people? Does the government understand that whatever gains it makes in infrastructure, in economy, is being rubbished? Is being rubbished very much so by the activities of these vandals and bandits and criminals? Does the government realize that it's a failure? Even if it's a successful failure, even if it succeeds in other sectors, why are we playing games? Is this a game of soccer? Is this a game of football? You understand? People are just keep all these rhetoric submissions and counter submissions. They send shivers down my spine, and it's very terrible.
Yes, it's terrible. Bayo from Lagos. Good evening, Bayo. Good evening, Bayo. You're on now. Okay, we will take Bayo later on. We apologize for holding you on. As soon as you call again, we'll take you on. Oba, Paul gave a very worrisome figure earlier on in his commentary when he talked about how much has exchanged hands
$80 million
in terms of ransom, and it's reminiscent of an earlier report sometime in 2018 that named Nigeria as a country where kidnapping is a cottage industry. Now, is this one of the factors that makes the government helpless in terms of its inability to tackle insurgency, i.e. terrorism, and now banditry on its hands? Particularly because if you have, if the insurgents are so empowered with resources, it tells of, how much is available to them in terms of equipment. I just interviewed one of those who accompanied Sheikh Gumi to the forest of Zamfara State and other southwest, and he talked about how young boys are seen carrying guns. So is this one of the things that makes government helpless?
To answer your questions frontally, I'll say yes to the two questions. Number one, the issue of ransom payment. He quoted a figure, $18 million, which is about 6.8 or 7 billion naira. So to say, naira is not stable. So if such an amount is exchanging hands in a sector, so to say, you can conveniently regard to that as a booming industry. Criminality has become an industry in Nigeria, and a lot of people are cashing out from it day in, day out. And it's because of government weakness to deal with the criminals the way it is expected that they will deal with them. If $18 billion, that's a huge amount of money. I don't know how many hospitals that can build across Nigeria. I don't know how many schools that can build across Nigeria. If such an amount of money, even much more than that, that is what is officially, issued. Yeah. We could have as much as
captured.
Much more than that. If such an amount of money is exchanging and you expect such an industry to die overnight, no, it will not die overnight. The police will come, the military will come. Every time they rescue kidnapped victims, they will tell you that they did not pay ransom. So where did this ransom come from? Are they paid by ghosts? Are they received by ghosts? So it's a booming industry. We saw a picture where Sheikh Gumi snapped a picture with the bandits, and I don't know whether what he was carrying was words of money. I don't know if you saw that picture. It made front pages of a lot of national daily newspaper, and I saw the money. That look, if these people are enjoying this much, and you are putting such a picture, on the front pages of newspapers, you are telling other people.
About hold the thought, we have Ibrahim from Adamawa. Ibrahim, you're on. Good evening.
Okay.
Well, we don't know what exactly is happening to the phone lines today, but keep trying. We're waiting to take your calls on Journalist Hangout.
So if people who didn't have these criminal tendencies and, they start hearing of such huge amount of money being paid as ransom, it's just an invitation to them, that tell them that crime pays. It's as simple as that. And you're talking about weapons. These criminals, we've seen their pictures. So the government cannot tell us that they don't know where they are or they don't know who they are. We saw them taking pictures with sophisticated weapons. We saw them brandishing such weapons. What is the source of these weapons? Who are supplying them these weapons? What is the government doing about the supply of these weapons? Are we trying to cut out the supply of these weapons? Where are these weapons? Look, you can see what they are brandishing there. You can see them, and they have that. Even this one, they are putting on hoods on their faces. There are some of them that, they will never even put on any hood. Is like an affront on the government that, look, here I am. I am the one behind this.
There's one there that
and there's nothing you can do.
That isn't hooded and he's smiling.
You see them putting on camouflage. You know, you see them putting on all sorts. And even the weapons, some weapons there are even strange to some security people in Nigeria. And if these things keep happening and you keep hearing of such huge amount of money, you are telling people who are not engaged in this thing, you are inviting them that they need to come. He said something earlier, and I thought I was expecting him to take it a little further, that look, it's not about going to exchange fire for fire. What is the root cause of all of these things? Yeah. One of the root causes of all of these things is this huge amount of money that is being paid as ransom. That is one of it. We are not saying government should pay ransom. We are not saying government should not pay ransom, because that is another debate for another day entirely. Some people will tell you that if payment of ransom will solve problems, let us go ahead and pay ransom to solve problems. But for how long are we going to continue to pay ransom? How long are we going to continue to have negotiations with the criminals? The government has the monopoly of violence. You know, that statement, you know, has been proven over and over. That the government has all the resources.
That also brings to mind the position of the military sometimes that because of the rules of engagement, it can't, you know, some really go to locations identified as bandit locations or insurgent locations to bomb those places, because the insurgents use those they have kidnapped as human shields.
What we are saying is that
there is the loss of lives of innocent.
What we are saying is that go to the root cause.
This appears tenable.
Find out what is the reason, what is the attraction for these people. Let us deal with that attraction. It's not always a matter of fire for fire. It's not always a matter of shooting and bombing their areas. Let us go to the root cause. What is the attraction? One of the attractions, Bukola, is poverty. One of the attractions.
Thank you very much.
Many people would disagree with me that no, it's not poverty. Okay, maybe to an extent, but it's poverty. One of it is poverty. One of it is lack of education or proper information. And the third one is just what we just identified now.
If I may chip in something here, you know, you have actually hit the nail on the head. Poverty. Do you realize?
Hold on the thought of poverty. Chikwe from Germany. Good evening.
Good evening, Bukola. Good evening, Oba. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
You see, I know what I'm about to say now may not be all that popular, you know. I know several times people have called in on this program to say that Nigeria is already a third state. And the people on the program, you know, on such days already, they said, no, Nigeria, it wouldn't be nice to say Nigeria is a third state. Nigeria is not already a third state. Meanwhile, they have been saying that Nigeria is a third state, you know. So I'll keep asking myself, what are the indices of a third state? Some time ago, the Minister of Defense, Mr. Magashi, told us that Nigerians should go and defend themselves with their hands. The other time also, the Minister of State for Education, Mr. Majoda, said parents should be vigilant because government cannot protect schools. So I'm asking myself, is it enough to be vigilant? Even when you are vigilant and you see that aggressor coming, what do you do? What do you do? So if we say that the Minister of Education is telling Nigerians to go and be vigilant because government cannot protect schools, and the Minister of Defense, Magashi, was saying that Nigerians should go and defend themselves with their hands, doesn't it mean that government has failed? And when the government has failed, isn't it?
Oh, thank you very much, Chikwe, from all the way from Germany, and he asked a critical question: what are the indices of a failed state?
Before you take your shot there, a failed state here, according to this definition, is a political body. In this instance, now maybe a state or a country that has disintegrated to a point where basic conditions and responsibilities of a sovereign government no longer function properly.
Let's meditate on that. We'll take a break now. It's Journalists Hangout on TVC News. We'll be back with more after this break. We're very glad to have you back. It's still Journalists Hangout on TVC News. And today we're looking, first of all, at the President's directive to service chiefs to be more proactive, identify the leaders of the bandits and take them out, and sundry issues. And we're looking at some of the issues fueling insurgency in the northeast and now northwestern part of Nigeria. My guests so far today have been very gracious, Obadeoye and Paul. Paul, thank you for holding on. Oba, thank you for holding on. Oba has given us the definition of a failed state, well, just after Paul talked about poverty earlier on. So, Paul, I want you to continue with that point on poverty.
Now, talking about poverty, You know, there was this report of Boko Haram giving loans to people, giving soft loans to people, artisans, and some to become informants. And they were jumping, of course, jumping at it, talking about that's poverty. When you have a business that is not thriving, or you don't even have anything doing, and somebody dangles some money as a juicy carrot before you are likely to take it. So poverty is a very big factor.
There's a report about the other faction of Boko Haram being good to the people.
That's it.
Yes, helping the people
that's
out.
exactly what I'm saying. Then talking about education, I think we have about 12 million out of school children. Now, today's bandits are the Almajiri of yesterday. You understand? We need to pay attention. They are not paying attention to education. There are people who have this culture. They think poverty, ignorance is a virtue. Are people who don't think they are missing anything for being out of school. So there must be a mindset. There must be deliberate program, that decision to actually educate the people, to change the mindset of the people, so that, the value system, the values, it's about education gives you proper values. They say that education, it makes it easy for you to lead people, but impossible to enslave them. I did say here that some years back, I think about how many years back now? About 20 years or so, I was in, that was 2002, there was Miss World riot, if you remember. And then
before you continue, that sounds like it's going to take a while before you land on the point. We have Gabriel from Yola. Good evening, Gabriel.
Thank you. Good evening.
Yes, you're on. Go ahead with your contribution.
I think the problem we have now is leadership. You understand? I don't know how conversant you are with Obasanjo administration, but you realize that Obasanjo appoint people and you find a way to supervise them to make sure they do their job. But this administration, there is nothing like that. You appoint people.
We lost our call from Gabriel.
He was making a point.
Making a very, very huge point. Gabriel, please try to call back. But we'll pick up on it. So go ahead.
I was going to say some of the people that fomented trouble then. When they were caught, they were saying they were giving 200 naira, 400 naira, or thereabout to go and cause problem. Imagine that. They give you 200 naira and then you go kill him.
It speaks to the level of poverty.
Exactly. So we must tackle the issue of poverty. The gap between the rich and the poor is too wide in every part of the country. It's not just in the north. So we are making, when people are poor, they become security risk. We know that. So these are some of the issues that have to be dealt with. The profligacy in the system has to be dealt with. And this is real. Because if we continue like this, I pray that we'll still have Nigeria. But I, for one, all of us, we know that we have nothing to gain if Nigeria is destroyed. Some of us do have dual citizenship. May Nigeria endure, may Nigeria succeed. That's my prayer.
One of the things that may be fueling the poverty in northern part of Nigeria is what I want us to continue with. But Gabriel was taking up a point that we should also reflect on, which is the difference in administrations. It's the similarity that we can draw is that both presidents, former and current, retired from the military. So what is responsible for that difference in approach?
He was making a point, but unfortunately technology could not allow him to finish with that point. And very, very germane point to what we are discussing right now, the issue of the figure that leads a government is so important. I remember when, at the early stage of this administration, we started using slogans like body language, body odor. Some people say, look at the body language. They are beginning to read this body language and things are beginning to fall in place. But later, the body language became body odor that people really could not even identify with. When the leader is laid back, when the leader is not, is not seen to be in charge, all sorts of things will happen under his nose. And that is the difference between the administration of President Olusegun Obasanjo and this particular administration. I can't remember the last time I saw Mr. President address us as a nation. Maybe you see him in the 9 o'clock news, or listen to him talk, or taking certain decisions extempo. But I can remember Olusegun Obasanjo going from one place to another. I remember the OD.
And there was a regular media chat, the monthly media chat.
Yes. I don't know what has happened to that monthly media chat. People who are working with you, even as a leader in your home, as a father or as a mother in your home, when your children see that you don't appear to be in charge, they do all sorts. They do all sorts. But the moment they hear the horn of your car from outside, and they know that daddy is back from work, I'm not saying you should be a terror at home, but they know that daddy is back from work. All sorts of things you start. I remember back then, growing up in Mushin, the moment you hear that my father was around, maybe I've gone out to play football and I have dirty feet, I quickly rush to the back and try to wash and try to protect. That's a leader. That's body language, so to say. But when the leader is seen to just be commiserating with victims of bomb blasts or terror attack, be giving out statements, without bite, all sorts of things will happen under his nose. Mr. President, that's why I said earlier that talking tough is not unfamiliar with us. It's not strange to us. This particular Mr. President has been talking tough since 2015, but walking the talk is a big problem for him. And that is why, like he was saying, the caller from Yola, that when you give a responsibility to people, you appoint them, you pronounce them, look, you are in charge of this thing, and you are not giving them proper monitoring, proper checks and balances all of the time. You are telling them invariably that they are free to do whatever they like in that office. And that is what we are having right now. It took several months of outrage from the citizenry before Mr. President could even think of changing the service chiefs. So it's
the president reserves the right to wield the big stick. I'll come to you with that, Paul, but we have Olushola from Ibadan. Good evening, Olushola. You're on.
Thank you. Good evening. How are you, Bukola?
Very well, thank you.
And your guest, your analyst in the house. Good evening, all.
Yeah, good evening.
You see, Mr. President is supposed to be, I think, more proactive on the statements they will have to give on the rising insecurity in our country. Honestly, we expected better actions from him. Why? Because Nigerians respected him because of the foundational knowledge he has had in the military about security. So Mr. President is expected to be more ruthless and make sure he go by the forefront the way he has promised Nigerians. And honestly, Nigerians are not even happy. And when you check it, public opinion about this government is gradually now dying. Why? It was very strong before, but now it's dying. Thank you. Good evening.
Thank you very, very much, Olushola, for your contribution. So perhaps if Mr. President began with that approach this time around under this, current service chiefs, things would be different. If you knew you were going to lose your job in the next 1 month if you didn't perform, that would help your attitude to the work.
Probably so. Talking about President Olusegun Obasanjo, he may have been high-handed, and he actually was high-handed, but nobody can accuse him of not being in charge. The man was in charge, and everybody knew that there was a president. Now, one of the reasons why President Buhari was voted in is because people thought the man who was there was not doing well, wasn't doing well enough, and so he was asked to, he was voted out, and the president was brought in. And one of the things he had going for him was his military background.
And his no-nonsense
exactly, no-nonsense, exactly.
But it was a surprise
exactly
in the way that he dealt with the military.
This is a president who ordered an army chief to move somewhere, and he did not. He didn't do anything. This is a president under whose watch you have different agencies or ministries, contradicting one another, and it does nothing. You see public officers, senior public officers quarreling in the public, singing discordant tunes. They go to the National Assembly, maybe the National Assembly Committee, sing discordant tunes, and the president looks on. Sometimes it's very difficult to read. I wonder, what actually does he think? Is it that he doesn't just want to offend people, or doesn't want to offend people? He just wants to, but you can't do that with people's lives. You can't do that with people's lives. You can't play games with people's lives. So this seemingly insouciant attitude of the president, there has to be a change. Because, look, he still has, he has a long time. 2023 is a long time. How many more people will die?
You think so?
No, it is a long time. If you look at it, it's a long one.
Can you reconcile, the no-nonsense disposition that the president was projected to have at the time when the APC government wanted to come into office during the electioneering with what you have seen so far in his handling of things, Oba?
They are miles apart. The candidate that was sold to us and the candidate and the person we have now as the president, they are not the same thing. You cannot reconcile the two. We were told over and over, people who came out to campaign for him. I remember he was dressed in a three-piece suit in one of his campaign pictures, and that was the only time I saw him in the suit anyway. He was dressed in that and, trying to sell his candidacy to us. All of us were convinced that, look, indeed, now, someone that will be in charge has come. This person understands the security architecture of the nation, and this person rose in the military to become a general. And so, therefore, we are going to have a president who is going to be in charge. But 6 years down the lane, what we have right now is at variance completely with that person we had. We don't know what really went wrong. Perhaps looks were deceptive, or perhaps we were sold a dummy. Perhaps the people that sold the candidacy to us knew all along that, look, let's just push this man to them. Perhaps that's what happened. Perhaps that that fatigue just setting naturally for him. Perhaps it's age. Perhaps it's the complexity of the system. I don't know. I'm in the dark as regards that. But I expect, I still expect, like you said, that he still has a long time.
It's a long time.
But it's not a long time.
You know why I said it was a long time.
Electionary campaign will start.
I was looking at it in the context of how many more people will die. But you understand? You just told us, you gave us the figure of those who died within a few days. Now, when I said a long time, what I meant is, see, you still have more time for people to die if you don't do anything. You understand what I'm saying? How many more people will die because of our before you act?
We're not prophets of doom, but if we must be
realistic, if you read the situation.
Even now, some bandits may be plotting another kidnap. We could go on and on.
And these are bandits that don't even respect the president.
Gentlemen, but
let's strategy beyond force.
Let's continue. But it's instructive rather, to wrap up on this topic with Olushola's comment, which is saying that it's not just the service chiefs that need to be proactive. The president also needs to be proactive. As we move on now, it's still much ado about National Identification Number (NIN) registration in Nigeria, while citizens race to beat the April 9 deadline for linking NIN numbers to SIM cards. The exercise has got another extension. Well, may have, as a federal high court sitting in Lagos has ruled for extension of the registration by 2 months. The court granted the prayer of the former second vice president of the Nigeria Bar Association, NBA, Monday Ubani, who asked the court to stop the Nigeria Communications Commission from disconnecting all SIM cards not linked to NINs. Justice M.A. Onyetenu ruled that the April 9 deadline will likely infringe on the fundamental rights of Nigerians to freedom of expression as guaranteed by the 1999 Constitution and expose them to the risk of contracting COVID-19. That's if many Nigerians have not already contracted COVID-19 as a result of crowding NIN registration centers in order to get it done. I even have a current issue with the NIN now. There are myriads of issues, gentlemen. Let's start first of all with your experiences before we talk about the court.
I'm happy that my big brother Monday Ubani, took that step, and I'm happier that it yielded this result that we have right now. Because in my little corner there in Ogba, I've been wondering that, look, is this how these people are going to punish us for crimes we never committed? As we speak right now, my wife and my bosom friend don't have their primary lines with them. What happened? They misplaced those lines and they've not been able to retrieve. Those lines are business lines. Those lines are their primary lines. You go to the telcos, they will tell you that the directive is that they should not retrieve any line or register new line. Is it my fault? Is it the fault of the citizens? there are other ways of doing these things without necessarily inflicting pains on the citizen. Look, what have we been looking at? This is not the first time that we'll be registering SIM cards or doing all sort of biometric capturing in this country. What has happened to the previous ones? Have they gone down the drain? Are we going to suffer for that? What strategy have you put in place to ensure that about 200 million Nigerians, you know, or as many people as possible who are connected in one way or the other with telcos, have their name registration done without hassles? Those are the things you need to think about. It's not about giving us deadlines. This is not a military regime. This is not, we are not in a time of war. I know the exigency of this, that you need all of these things to fight insecurity and to do a whole lot of things. But, you know, cutting me off and giving me deadlines that, you know, visibly I cannot meet up with is out of it. For me, the most painful part of it is the introduction of NIN to JAMB candidates. That's those young Nigerians who are seeking admission into tertiary institutions. JAMB told them that you need to go and get NIN. And if you look at this, is the center of the NIN. Look at the kind of crowd. You expect an 18-year-old to come into this center, and you know, you end up time that you are supposed to spend at the tutorial center to keep learning, to keep, you know, preparing for the exams. You spend that time in this center. And the painful part is that many people will still even go to this center, and at the end of the day, they will still have nothing to do. What are you doing in ensuring that we have multiple centers to register people? What are you doing? Are you trying to take out your own failure on us? If you have failed in the area of leadership, you should find a way of addressing that and not trying to punish people for that. Good as the initiative is, as commendable as it is, the strategy or the implementation has not really been encouraging at all. I want to see, because I was sitting down, I was watching the development. I said, look, the telecom companies will be the greatest loser in all of this at the end of the day. If they like, let them fold their hands and allow things to go down down south. They will be the greatest loser.
Talking about implementation and strategy, this is 2021. Why should Nigeria in 2021 require citizens to provide personal information details by coming to line up at NIN offices when the forms can be made available online and you can feel from the comfort of your office?
What about the use
or
of
the comfort
the
of your home?
As if you could read my thoughts. This were the thoughts coursing through my mind.
Does NIN have the personnel
exactly
to carry this out? There's fatigue to be considered.
These were the thoughts coursing through my mind as I was thinking about this. There are several ways of doing this. Why do we enjoy inflicting pains on people? Why do we like queues in Nigeria? You go to the fuel station, you queue. You go to the bank, you queue. It's like we love queues. You know, the truth of the matter is there are several ways you can do this. You talk about using the banks. When we're doing BVN registration, it wasn't that difficult. Now, we did, what's it called, voter registration. Why don't you take this to the wards? When we're doing this Lagos, is it Lastra?
Yes.
They were coming to our offices. Why don't you go to people's offices? Yes, you can't go to people's offices and register them. You can't go to people's offices and register.
Does NIN have the personnel?
You can employ people. We use
employ ad hoc staff.
What about youth corps members? What about training them? You know, why do we need this? Like, and the truth of the matter is, look, you can't finish registering for NIN even till December. That's the truth of the matter. If you continue to use this strategy, that is very realistic.
That's why I'm asking,
next month.
Exactly.
Be, done electronically.
Exactly.
There's an agenda of revenue generation attached to this, because if you have an error in your personal information details, it attracts a fine or a payment of fresh registration to the tune of 15,000 naira.
But the truth of, why do we have to go through? My point is, why do we have to go through all this? I do hope and I believe that the federal government will honor this court judgment. By now, they should even have made a statement. Because this is not realistic. Monday Obani, a very good man. I know him very well. I must really commend him for doing what he did. You know.
Okay, let's take Bankole from Akure. Hello, Bankole.
Good afternoon.
Good evening.
Yeah, good evening. How is everything?
Yeah, very well, thank you. You're on. Okay. Go ahead with your contribution.
My regards to everybody there.
Thank you.
I want to contribute to what is going on, the topic.
Go ahead, you're on.
Okay. What is there is that NIN is for security reason. Federal government says everybody should register. Are you hearing me?
We are. Go ahead.
Then why is it? If we have been blaming government for insecurity, and if this one is not done, that means we are not supporting the government in finding solution to insecurity in the country. Kill or no kill, it has been said that we should register NIN, and people have done this. So now, if we are supporting those people that have not done their own, that means we are supporting insecurity in the country. If this one can solve it...
That is not the case, Bankole. I hope you're following the discussion. And nobody on this platform has said that the NIN registration should not be carried out. We're talking about approaches to implementing the registration itself.
Let me hear Bankole a bit. Bankole, you have... we are not saying that the government should not do NIN. We said it on this table, just a moment back, that as commendable as that effort, as that initiative is, the execution, the strategy of execution is not too tight, especially when you consider that we are in an era of a contagious disease, that's COVID-19, that has got millions of naira or billions of naira and is still gulping official and unofficial, and the rest of the money that they have spent on it. We are not saying the government should not do it. What we are saying is that there are ways of doing it. Instead of, okay, look at the crowd around you. Let me answer the guess. We may not have add up to half the number of people who have phone lines who are connected to NIN.
Exactly.
And that's a function of the population of the country. So you have to put all of this in consideration. It suggested something, going to offices to do the registration.
By the way, thank you, Bankole, for your call. Let's go ahead with the conversation.
Okay. You suggested something about going to the offices to register people. The banks, do you know that these days, if you want to pick up your ATM card, for an instance, you sit down there, they print your ATM card for you. They give it to you, you go outside there and start working immediately. What's the big deal about NIN? It's technology. I think we have problem with technology in this part of the world. And that is the problem. Deploy the banks. And people outsource it to the banks.
They are exploiting people because of this NIN. They ask the telcos to also register people. The thing is that you can't go to all of the outlets to register. I won't mention the name of the particular telco. There's an outlet somewhere in Lagos here, where I'm talking about agents of a telecommunication company collecting money from people
to register. NIN.
I'm telling you the truth. We had to call that because we did the investigation. We had to call the spokesperson of that telecom company, and he said,
he wasn't aware.
He wasn't aware. We would investigate. We would investigate. So people are just making money. Everything there's confusion.
It's not too much of a surprise because there are many unaccredited NIN centers. You're supposed to go to the local government to register to get your national identification number. But there are many unaccredited centers where NIN registration is being done. And when you contact the head office here in Lagos to say, okay, you have an error to be done, they ask you where you registered and you say, this is the place. The official expresses surprise.
In my area, I saw something like posters everywhere. Register your NIN. So I called the number, and I said, "Come to so place and register." I said, "Are you an agent or something?" Don't worry about that. It's authentic. It's just authentic. You understand? What are you? Are you representing a telco? What are you?
Are you a government agent?
The person couldn't tell me on the phone. I went to that place. I couldn't find them. In fact, I've been passing through that place looking for them because they told me the particular spot where they would be. I've been going there. I have not seen them. Maybe I'll call the number again. I'll say, look, I went to where you mentioned. I have not seen you. What about that?
All right. We have Tayo from Ilorin. Good evening, Tayo. You're on.
Hello, good evening. How are you?
Very well, thank you. You're on. Go ahead with your contribution.
To the gentleman that says is something about the security is poverty and lack of education. My contribution to that, when you say education, not everybody that's educated is not illiterate. There are a lot of illiterate, educated illiterate. For those in Abuja, I don't understand it.
Maybe they need somebody with a degree that goes with what they are doing. The security of the nation is in the hands of the head of the family, which is the president. Giving the problem to some people to keep talking for him. If you know these people, please speak up. The man is 70-something. What do you got to lose?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Tayo was probably responding, contributing to the first topic. Thank you very much, Tayo, but we've moved on from that. So about hopes that the federal government would heed this court judgment, or would it appeal? What are your expectations?
Bukola, he said something earlier, and I was going to add that because the government has a penchant for disregarding judgments that are not in their favor, that maybe this time around they are going to, oblige this judgment. But we'll keep our fingers crossed. This April 9 is a matter of about 9 days or thereabout. We'll see what happens. Whether they are going to cut us off, those of us who have not registered, or they are going to obey the judgment of the court. We'll keep our fingers crossed. We'll see what happens at the end of the day. But my advice is that, look, you cannot fix a deadline for the registration of NIN. It has to be a continuous process, because after April 9, some other Nigerians will clock 18 by April 10, April 11, April 12, April 13. So it's going to be a continuous process. So they should sit down and re-strategize and rearrange all of this process. Thoughts
for the federal government or its officials by proxy to consider, especially when deliberating on the court order? And of course, our first topic. We thank you very much for being there on Journalist Hangout today. We urge you to join us again, same time tomorrow when we bring you another edition. Thank you very much, Obadewi, my colleague, and thank you very much, Paul, for being on the program. And that's it on the program. You can also watch Journalist Hangout on Sunday from 1:30 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. We're on YouTube at youtube.com/TBC News Nigeria. I am Bukola Samuel Wemimo. Bye for now, and God bless Nigeria.